Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Can we check the volume, the microphone volume, please? Thank you. Well, we appreciate your being here today. Um, we have our Jornada de Inglés that started yesterday, and today is the second day and final day of our Jornada de Inglés. And yesterday we had two presentations, two talks, and today we're also having two. The one that took place at 9 a.m., which was a virtual session, and now the in-person session. And for that, I am going to introduce our guest speaker. Let me give you an idea of who our speaker is. I'm going to go ahead and read his biodata. Leonel Ojeda Ruiz holds a master's degree in English language teaching by the BUAP, where he has worked for 14 years. He is currently studying a PhD program in education at UPAEP. His research areas are phonetics and phonology, academic writing, and professional development. And the presentation that we asked and he kindly agreed to doing today is on this very interesting topic, which is teacher professional development through educational research. Now, this is of particular, of a special importance to us because yesterday we had our rector here and he was explaining to you that one of the core activities of a university is research, investigación, ¿verdad? Research, and what our guest is going to do is explain to us explain to us or give us, an example of a research project that he developed and also that he has already published. So it is of particular interest also because this is a qualitative research. There is two types of research, I'm going to call them models. One that is quantitative and the other that is qualitative. Quantitative is mostly used in, I'm going to say, for example, here with engineering programs. Most of what is done is quantitatively. There is statistics helping understand the data from a research project. But in his case, also very important and interesting is how to analyze qualitative data. So let's pay attention now to our guest and be prepared to ask questions once he finishes presenting his research that he kindly has agreed to do this today. So without further ado, I'm gonna pass the baton or pass the microphone to our guest, and please join me in welcoming our guest with a very warm applause. So the floor is yours. Okay, thank you very much. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. Um, Thank you very much for being here. It's a pleasure for me to come to this university invited by Professor Carlos, good friend of mine for a long time, 25 years, if I'm not mistaken. 25 years, can't believe it. Well,
As he just mentioned, I am going to talk to you about uh, a research project that I conducted a few years ago. And this is a qualitative study that I would like to show you how to follow certain steps to conduct the project. Okay? So this topic will be teacher professional development through educational research. I can see there are many students here today, and very soon many of you will have to write a project, or well, in our case, we write a thesis project, and that helps to develop certain skills as researchers. So, can you change the next slide, please? As you know, in every research, we need to have objectives, okay? And these objectives have to be very specific. The objectives that I have here are the following. First, to understand the nature of the professional development that English language teachers have achieved during and after the completion of their MA program. The next one. To explore how the participants perceive the way this professional development has changed or shaped their teaching within their specific working context. Let me give you some information here. Uh, a group of teachers were studying a master's program. They were in the maestria, okay? And I conducted a qualitative study to investigate how the program helped the teachers. In one way, when you study uh, a master's degree, a master's program, you can feel some changes. So that's what I wanted to do with this group of teachers. Like I said, this research had these aims. The next one, please. Another element of a qualitative project is the research questions. The research questions and the objectives are very connected. If you investigate the professional development, you need to ask something about the professional development. So you will see that the research questions are very similar to the objectives. The first one is, what did the participants indicate in their CVs, in the curriculum or resume, and express in their interviews that might give evidence of professional development experienced during and after their MA program? Next. How do they perceive this professional development has changed or shaped their teaching within their specific working context? Can you see that these questions are very similar to the objectives? They have to be very similar. You cannot have an objective and then change a question about something different. You need to have a specific objective, and then you need to ask something about that objective. Good. So the next one, please. Can you show two or three more? One more. There you go. Well, in your projects, when you try to conduct your project, you need to work on the literature research. We call it literature research because we need to understand what is being investigated around your topic. And then professional development has been understood in different ways. One is the cognitive or individual phase, let's call it phases. The other one is social collaborative and awareness raising. How do we understand these three phases? In the first place, um, for example, how do we develop professionally? How do we grow as teachers? First of all, when you take courses, for example, you gain knowledge, you learn something new when you are taking a course. In that way, professional development can be understood as something cognitive. You are learning something new. That's the first part. But then, when you when you work in a different place, for example, if you are working in a school, certain school, and then you move to another school, the schools work differently. They are not the same. They have different systems. So in one way or another, you have to adapt to another teaching context. In that way, you are also learning from contact from other teachers. And that's why we have professional development as a social component or collaborative component. And at the same time, when we are conducting these two, there is a process of awareness raising. You become aware of the things that you are learning. You become aware of the relationship that you have with other teachers and the growth that you are experiencing with other teachers. The next one, please. More, a little bit more, one more, and one more. I think there is one more. No, that's it. Okay. More specifically, teachers' development in the workplace. When you are in a specific situation, for example, in a school, what happens here? We conduct some kind of reflective practice. We are working with students. We as teachers, we sometimes think, what is going on in my classroom? What's the problem with my students? What is affecting my students so that they can learn a little bit more? Um, so we have to reflect on the process, the teaching process. But also we have the concept of situated learning. What does that mean? Like I said, when you work in different places, the learning that you take from one place is different from the other. So that's what we call situated learning. Or if you go to, I don't know, let's say Volkswagen to work, you go work there, and then all the dynamic that you follow in Volkswagen will be different if you go to another enterprise. It will be completely different if you go to another place. So in that case, you will see that you are learning something different here and also something different there. That's what we call situated learning. And at the same time, you create communities of practice. You as teachers or as professionals, you work in small groups. In our schools, we work like academias. That will be a small community of practice. But at the same time, you belong to a larger community of practice. And this community of practice belongs to an even larger community of practice. So we are all working in communities of practice. All right? Well, just to connect the previous one, the reflective practice is connected to the individual or cognitive component of professional development, which includes the awareness raising process. And the situated learning, working in context, represents the social collaborative component of social professional development. The next one, please. Now, something very connected to this project is how do we connect teachers' professional development with research? I am sure that many of you think that, well, research is not for me, or I don't really like that part, but all of you will be involved in research one way or another. The concept of teacher research and teacher development. Research and teaching. They are two very important areas which are connected because, for example, when we conduct research, we understand what is going on in our classrooms. And we can implement certain activities or certain projects to change things around the situation. But if you don't do that, you will be in the same situation all the time. So we expect that with research, you start changing things in your classroom. Well, there are some authors who have found strong connections between research and teaching. Others, they haven't found any relationship. They say, no, there's no connection between research and teaching. But in my personal experience, I have noticed that there is some connection. I have conducted research for several years, and I have seen changes in my development and around my classroom. I have seen that change. Well, one way to do this is by conducting action research. Action research is some kind of research that you do in your classroom. You are the researcher in your own classroom, and you can implement changes, and you can see differences at the end of the process. Well, in this case, we have concepts like exploratory teaching. You explore what's going on around your room. And at the same time, we have collaborative research. Many times when you talk to other teachers, you say, well, in my class, something happened the other day, and blah, blah, blah. And then the other teacher said, oh, I had the same thing the other day. So we can talk and we can collaborate. And then if we get involved in research, we might say, well, why don't we try to understand this? Why don't we conduct research and try to analyze the situation that we both have in common? And that can be an example of collaborative research by conducting action research. The next one, please. Am I going too fast? Is that okay? I was just checking the time, so okay. Well, another element in your project will be a methodology section. In the methodology, you have to describe all the steps that you followed to conduct your study. And in this section, methodology, you have to describe basically participants, uh, the instruments, the procedures, everything that you do to conduct the study. Okay? Well, in this case, I conducted the study with these characteristics. This is a collective case study. When I say case study, I refer to a small group of teachers. That's why it's collective. When it's only one, it could be just a study, a case study. But in this case, it's a collective case study. It's qualitative in nature. In other words, I am not getting information from the participants related to numbers. I am getting information in the narrative form, okay, in text, basically. The participants were 5 EFL teachers, 2 male and 3 female. They were from 10 to 20 years of teaching experience at the time of the study. So this study was conducted years ago, and it was published later. But at the time of the study, the participants had from 10 to 20 years of teaching experience. The instruments, I used semi-structured interviews, the participants' CVs. Um, Very quickly, what is a semi-structured interview? It's a kind of interview where you have a set of questions, let's say 5, 6, 7 questions. But when you are interviewing the person, and then sometimes you think, oh, he mentioned something interesting about my project. So the following question is different, but you want to investigate more about what the participant said at that moment. So you can add more questions. That's why it's a semi-structured interview. It's not a set of questions that you have to follow strictly. You can add certain questions depending on the information that the participant gives you. Well, the participant CVs, this is just to triangulate the information. And the analysis, well, the information was carefully analyzed to get certain categories to um, represent all the information that was obtained. The next one, please. Okay, just to remind you, what were the questions that I had at the beginning? As you can see, I used interviews. Here we have the word interviews, but also the CVs. What did the participants indicate in their CVs and express in their interviews that might give evidence of professional development experienced during and after the MA program? And the other one was, how do they perceive this professional development has changed or shaped their teaching within their specific working context? So just to help you remember what we were focusing on in the objectives and the questions. The next one, please. I have a small table here representing all the categories that I found. Here we have the participants and the categories of development. There were different forms in which they developed with the master's program. Remember, they were studying a master's program, un programa de maestría, and how this master's program helped them grow professionally. Well, the categories were self-awareness, flexibility or openness to new ideas, decision-making process, authoring, networking, and losses. That's like a summary, but I will give you more specific information. The next one, please. Two more, please. One, two. Remember, this is qualitative in nature. So there is a lot of text, a lot of text. Because I had to interview the participants, I had to record their voices, and I had to transcribe every single word they said. So here is part of the information that I selected for you. Self-awareness. This is just one example for self-awareness. Participant two, he said, I do have plans, but I haven't done anything because of the circumstances, because of laziness, because of whatever it could be. But then you are aware of your own lacks. You are aware of the fact that you are not growing up. I would say that's good, at least to notice that. When she was studying the master, she realized that she had some lacks. She was aware, self-aware. She was like, I need to do something. I need more. I need to grow. So that's part of the process, self-awareness. The other one, flexibility and openness to new ideas. When this teacher was in the program, she said, sometimes you get married with some ideas. For example, in investigation, if you are reading, you are going to realize that it is not the only thing. This is a perspective, but there are others. So yes, that also impacts in my personal life. I am not married to one idea, you know. I think now that there are more. So maybe I was kind of flexible, but now I think I am more flexible. I'm more open. What does that mean? This teacher expresses that when she was taking the master's program, she realized that she could understand certain things and she was open to other ideas, not just what she thought was correct. Many times when you are teaching, we believe that the way we teach is correct and we follow that way of teaching for years. But why don't we implement something new? That could be an example of flexibility and openness to new ideas. The next one, please. One, two. Okay. Decision making process. Something that the master's program helped the teachers to grow was to decide. In your life, I think that you will have to make very important decisions, like what to study. That was one important decision, I think. But there will be others that you will have to decide also. Well, this teacher, participant two again, he said, I was working at another private school and the pay was really good. And sometimes my wife complained, why did you quit the job? And I tell her, it's because I wouldn't grow up there either, professionally talking, right? And well, after the years, you see that the choices have been the appropriate, at least in terms of growing up professionally. As you can see, this teacher, he was in a school, a private school, and he was getting very good money, but he was not growing. Can you see that? He was not growing, and he decided to quit that job, even though the money was good. The money could be good, but not your professional development. And he decided professional development instead of the money. But guess what? His wife complained, why did you quit the job? The money was good. And he was like, but I don't care about the money. I care about my professional development. See? So that's one important element. The authoring part, very interesting. In this project, I realized that um, many teachers became authors. What do I mean by that? When I say authors, they were involved in research, but they were um, speakers, just just like me right now in this moment. They became researchers. They started publishing papers, just like I did with this one. So they were involved in research, and that was something incredible for them. And I was surprised when I saw the results. For example, participant one said, we've been able to implement programs here in the facultad. We've been doing workshops and presentations. We've been doing small research projects. See, look at this, doing small research projects. We're going to present a small research in Mextesol this year. Mextesol is a congress, by the way, national congress and international. And we might present something for the FEULE too. That's another congress about languages. So with the master's program, they started working in projects and presenting in different congresses as speakers. The next one, please. Networking and losses. I will be very quick in this part because it's a lot of text, so I don't want you to get bored in this case. Another part of the result was networking. In other words, you start making connection with other people. When you go to a congress, when you present your projects, there will be someone who will be interested in your topic and say, well, I am interested in that part. Can we share information? Can we do something similar in our schools, something like that? So you start connecting with other teachers, other people. Um, the same participant. Also to build up more connections. We've been able to meet people that without the masters, it would have been very complicated. The master's program gave them that opportunity to connect with other researchers and very important researchers many times. Losses. What does that mean? You have to lose something. This teacher, well, I think this is very clear. You lose lots of relationships in the way. And she laughs. Writing is a pretty much lonely activity. She's talking about writing the thesis, writing the research project in the master's program. You do it on your own. You do it when you feel concentrated. You do it when there is little noise, when there are the physical conditions that are appropriate for you, and so on. I lost lots of contact with the real life. Look at this. I lost lots of contact with the real life. She was alone. She was working alone all the time in her house, in her room. I don't know. With reality. So you read a lot, you write a lot, and that makes that takes a lot of your personal life away from you. So she was like isolated, estaba aislada, because she was so connected with her project that she lost contact with people and reality outside. The next one, please. One more. There you go. Just to give you an example of how the teachers grew professionally, here we have two small charts. The first one, this is about speakers during and after the master's program. Speakers. When I say speakers, I mean ponentes, just right now, just like me right now. The blue one, it's a local presentation. The red one is a national presentation. And the green one, it's an international presentation. This is the chart during the master's program. As you can see, participant one had only two presentations, local presentations, and one national presentation. The same for participant two. Actually, they were together in the presentations. For that reason, they have the same. Participant three, nothing. Participant four, she had one international presentation. She went to Brazil to present her thesis uh, project. And participant five, nothing. But look at this, after the program, after the master's program, all of them increased. Can you see? Look at the first one, from two in blue to four. One in red, which is a national presentation, to seven after the master's program. So they increased their participation as speakers. The same for participant two, even more for the local presentations. Look, he had two, but then he had eight after the program. And then one national, but then he had four national presentations. And look at participant three, nothing here, and look at here. Three local presentations, four national presentations, and one international. She went to London to present her topic, her research project. Four, we have the same. One, two, three, four presentations. Again, she went to London, Brazil, and the States, the United States, to present projects. And the last one, from nothing, at least, she had two local and two national presentations. So that's how they grew professionally. after the program. That is incredible. The next one, please. And now another chart representing thesis readers or thesis directors and publications. Here we have the participants, and here we have the thesis reader or director section and the publications. The left part here is during the MA, and this is the after the master's program. Look at this part. It's empty, basically empty. During the program, participant one was a reader in two BA theses. He was reading two theses, but not much. But after the program was a reader in three BA theses and a director in three more. So he became a reader and a thesis director after the program. The same for the others. They started reading or directing theses in after the program. See? And look at the publications. In this case, participant 1 and 2, they didn't have any change. But look at participants 3, 4, and 5. They didn't have any publications before or during the program. But after the program, they published one chapter in a book, 4 published articles, and one. The last one is an accepted. It was accepted at the time of the study, but it was going to be published. So all of them had changes after the program. The next one. Well, very quickly, this is the way this professional development was connected with their teaching contexts. Um, they started connecting, sharing, and applying knowledge in their classrooms. They accepted new challenges. They had more confidence in their teaching, and there was more self-awareness of their teaching. Next, please. One, two. Okay. Just one example for each category that I have here. Connecting, sharing, and applying knowledge. Participant 2 mentioned, you do lots of things and you learn and then you read and then you see how you're growing. I mean, you can notice and then you say, oh man, this is a participant who complained, his wife complained about the money. You start reading something and you say, oh my God, this is something I had read before. And then you can connect that to other ideas and then you say, oh wow, I'm really good. So he has like, he's very, I don't know, like passionate about connecting information, understanding how one thing works with the other, accepting new challenges. Look at this one. If I hadn't studied the MA, I wouldn't have accepted working here at LEMO. LEMO is la licenciatura en lenguas modernas at that time, uh, because I think that just having the bachelor's, that means the licenciatura, that was enough for you, you know, for the other program. But having just the bachelor's for teaching at LEMO, that wasn't enough for me. I was like, I cannot work there. But after, you know, after being like 6 months studying the MA, and then I was given the opportunity to work here, I felt like, yes, I can do it. I didn't hesitate. I didn't say, no, I cannot. So she was accepting the challenge of working in the licenciatura program. This teacher was working in the Tronco Común area, but when she started the master, after 6 months, she said, yes, I can work in the licenciatura. I can teach at the licenciatura level. She was, she was given the opportunity and then she accepted the challenge. Next. Confidence in teaching. Thank you. When I was studying the MA, I was teaching and then my students had some questions that sometimes I couldn't answer, for example. And I used to say, well, let me see, I'm studying the MA and I'm going to ask my teachers. I am going to ask for help. Or I have seen that, but I don't remember very well. So let me check and tomorrow I will tell you. But I didn't feel that nervous, like, no, 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 my God, I don't know. And I cannot answer. What happened to me after all of this, I was like, yes, I am in the right place. I am doing what I like. And I started enjoying more my teaching. And I think that impacts in my personal life. So this teacher was confident to say, yes, I can teach. The content is difficult, but I can teach that part. Okay? And self-awareness of teaching. My teaching, I think it became more conscious. Like I became more aware of what I was doing. I mean, I don't mean that I wasn't aware, but I think I started to see things differently. So this teacher started thinking in a different way, and he was aware of he was teaching, how he was teaching. Next. Well, as you know, the conclusions of a project are very important. You conclude depending on what you get from the results. They are connected. So in this case, what I could conclude was the completion of the MA program triggered the participants' participation in the ELT community. All of them had some kind of involvement in doing research in the thesis readers or directors. So they were involved in the ELT community. All of them developed as presenters, thesis readers, or directors, and 3 of them developed as authors of research articles. Thus, their authorship developed and expanded to new audiences. Another conclusion that I had was their development was multidimensional in the sense that the resulting categories were not mutually exclusive and were often intertwined. What does that mean? Um, I had different categories for the result of the study, but that doesn't mean that one teacher was just in one category. So they could be in different categories, but the information they provided was more about one specific category. For that reason, they were like placed in one category here, but they could be in different categories. So that's why they were not mutually exclusive. That means if you are here, you cannot belong there. No, that's not possible. We are growing in different ways, but in this case, that's the way it was categorized. And the last one, the participants share similar perceptions of their development in terms of gaining knowledge and insights that led to a better understanding of their context. So these are the conclusions of the study that I conducted. And the next one, as you know, every study has limitations. You cannot really investigate everything about a topic. You also have limitations. In this case, we had 2 limitations. The number of participants. I only had 5 participants, which is a small number of teachers, but there could be more. So that's a limitation. And limited contexts. As you know, they all work in right now it's the Faculty of Languages, but at the same time, they work in the same context. So there are no different contexts to have more results. So that's a limitation. Next. Suggestions. Well, another section of qualitative project is to suggest uh, other other ways in which your study could be conducted or more information could be obtained. So the first suggestion is a larger number of participants, obviously, and a wider variety of teaching contexts in order to explore development in different contexts. We only have teachers from the university, the Faculty of Languages, but what about other institutions, other contexts? Are they experiencing the same when they study a master's program? So that's what we need to investigate. A longitudinal study to observe, compare, and analyze the changes that participants experience, in their different teaching contexts. That means the participants were investigated in one specific point, but what about during the years, the following years? Were they experiencing more professional development? Another suggestion would be factors that hinder teachers' professional development, teachers' identities, and teachers' developmental stages in the EFL Mexican context. So there are different suggestions. So that's another part that you will have to think about when you conduct your own studies. Next one, and that's it. Thank you very much.
Bravo, bravo. Thank you very much, Maestro Leonel, for your very interesting presentation. And also thank you for making it more digestible to the kind of audience that we have, not only professors, but also students. At this time, I would like to ask the audience if there is anybody that would like to ask our presenter a question. Um, this is the time. Thank you.
Thank you. Um, I think this is a really, really interesting topic to research, and
Thank
I
you.
would like to ask, can we get a copy of your uh, whole
Presentation.
publication?
Yes, yes, of course.
Okay.
If you want to, you can send me an email. If you want to, I can send you back the presentation. Or do you have contact with them?
Yeah.
Okay, because I sent it to you, so maybe you can ask him to send it back to you.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank you
but you
very
can have
much.
it. Yes, of course, you can have it.
Thank you.
Okay, well, so thank you so much again, and to our presenter of today, Maestro Leonel. He really gave us a very good example of how to read. Well, he did many things at the same time. He explained to us how to do quantitative research, sorry, qualitative research, which is perhaps something you in the engineering areas you might not see as often, or you might not, you know, sort of embark in qualitative research, but it is also very good to know about how to do qualitative research and also how to interpret uh, that research, that data. He also gave us a very good presentation on how to explain your research. He also has explained to us that he has published this research in a journal, or with a research article. So research, investigating is definitely very, very, I want to say, I guess you have to sort of have a passion for it. Otherwise, it's kind of hard to develop the skills, because you have to read a lot, you have to read extensively, and you have to also know how to do the research and what kind of literature and yeah, you're going to base your research on, and so many things that are to be taken into consideration. Just to ask him a question regarding this particular research, just so you have an idea, I would like to ask him how much time it took him to do this project from the very beginning with his objectives and questions to the very end where he actually has the results and draws conclusions from those results. So could you please explain a little bit on how long does it take to do this
Yes.
particular qualitative research?
Yes. Okay. Well, because it's qualitative, um, the information that you have to get is very extensive, quite a lot. The interviews were very long for some of the participants, and you have to transcribe a lot. If you are good at typing, can you type quickly? Well,
Sometimes.
sometimes, like, no, today, no, not today, maybe
Today,
tomorrow.
yes, tomorrow, no.
Yeah, no, no, but it usually takes one hour of your recording takes like 10 hours typing. 10 hours. If you are good at typing, if you are like the pollito strategy, that would take even longer. But it took me 30 hours to transcribe the information. I had 3 hours of recording, and it took me 30 hours to transcribe. So just to answer your question, when I started the project, I was in my seminario de investigación, obviously, and it took me like a year, a whole year with the project. 1 year from the beginning of the seminario to establish the objectives, the questions, the methodology, interviewing people, analyzing information, uh, creating everything until the end of the project. It took me about a year, a whole year. And the last 6 months, I don't want to discourage you to do research, but I was so concentrated on my project that I spent 10 hours every day working on the thesis. 10 hours every day, apart from my job. I was also teaching, I was with my students working with exams and everything. Okay, and I was working 10 hours. When I say 10 hours, I don't mean like sitting there 10 hours. Doing something about the thesis for 10 hours a day. That means going to the library, talking to a participant, transcribing information, checking books. Everything is connected to the thesis. So I was working 10 hours every day for 6 months. The last 6 months, I got sick, I got thin, I went to the hospital, but I finished the thesis in. I was the first one to get my titulo in my generation of teachers. That was a very rewarding thing, but it was very difficult. So you have to be very motivated to conduct research and finish as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was very informative answer. Let's give him an applause again. Uh, I think, well, we know that doing research and particularly focusing on one project is not like making enfrijoladas de Anaí. For the ones who have not seen that video, Anaí, the singer, has a video that where she shows how to make enfrijoladas. So doing research is far from making enfrijoladas. This is a lot of work. It can take one project can take up to 1 year or perhaps even more. There are research projects that can go for years. Those kinds of projects are called I don't remember exactly the name, but anyways, longitudinal studies. And so, thank you again, and we do really appreciate your taking the time to
Thank you very
to
much.
come all the way here,
Yeah.
where there is no civilization.
It's
Thank
a
you
little
for
far.
come.
It's
Thank
a
you
little
for
far.
coming from the city to this place that has no civilized people, except for us and you. But we really appreciate your participation, and we also, with this activity, conclude at least here in the auditorium our activities related to our Jornada de Inglés. Thank you again for coming, for participating. Thank you for your question, and we will see you again next quarter with our second Jornada de Inglés. And with that, we conclude the activities here in the auditorium. Thank you very much for your attention. And please, let's give each other a big applause.